we're really pleased actually to hear that registrants are really starting to see the benefits of doing more interactive CET, having the opportunity to speak to peers and colleagues and really share their own experiences and their own good practice and hear about others. We recognise that some of the changes have been quite intimidating for registrants, in particular having to do peer review and having to do more interactive CET, particularly as so many were reliant on distance learning previously, but they have overall been very positive about the changes. The first one is having to spread CET across the whole cycle, so now there's a minimum requirement to do at least 6 points per year throughout the 3-year cycle, really because we don't want registrants doing all of their CET at the beginning of the 3 years or at the end and nothing in between. Secondly, having to cover all of the competencies now, so it's not just about picking CET that people are interested in or in topics that they particularly prefer, it's about covering all those areas relevant to their scope of practice. And thirdly, it's about doing more interaction, so really choosing those events that include attendance or activities that involve talking to others and sharing that good practice. We've certainly seen more people trying to do much more in the first 3 months of the cycle, in particular peer review. We think people are trying to get that out the way and do it quickly, so we've seen 11% of our registrants already having done their peer review requirements so far, and certainly there's a lot of demand for that type of activity at the moment. We think that's probably going to continue throughout the cycle. I've certainly been very supportive of us having introduced a requirement to do peer review right from the beginning. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that's the most effective way of learning, and certainly we know that there's a lot of good practice out there. We know that registrants really do want to do a good job and they do want to raise standards, so we feel by making it a requirement for them to have to do this type of learning, they're really going to benefit from being able to do that, from learning from others and actually having the opportunity to talk about their experience and the cases they're seeing. And from the feedback we've had from registrants so far, they really are starting to see benefits of that and they're actually finding it an enjoyable way of doing CET. I've had the opportunity to personally attend 103 peer review events over the last few months, which has been quite a challenge. With the purpose of talking to people before they go and participate and then afterwards. People are apprehensive going in for their first time of doing it. They're worried about being judged, whether there's right or wrong answers, but peer review is not about that, and having participated they've realised that it's not about that and that it's a really good learning opportunity, and nearly everyone I've spoken to has said that they will choose to do more of this type of learning throughout the cycle as a preferred sort of method of CET now, rather than maybe relying on some of the other things like distance learning. A lot of people want to do peer discussions certainly for their first one. I think because that's using more example cases and it's all organised for them. So for their first time of doing it, it's a lot more of a comfortable way. What we've seen is people going to a peer discussion event, doing one, and then having the confidence to organise their own peer review group. We've seen a huge amount of registrants setting up their own local groups, and we know that when they've met once, they're planning to meet regularly. So I think it's sort of peer discussion for the first time and then a lot more local peer review following on. We've been surprised the number of people who have wanted to do it so quickly, who are really trying to do it initially and then are telling us that they're going to do a lot more of that throughout the cycle. We'd hoped that was the case, but we weren't totally confident. I think also there's been a lot of reaction around the requirement to do interactive CET in general. So there's been more stronger reactions, if you like, about not being able to do all of the points through distance learning. In actual fact, that's not entirely true because there is interactive distance learning available. So we've worked quite hard with the distance learning providers to make sure that those people that rely on that as a form of CET can have some interactive versions of distance learning. So that's probably the sort of biggest myth that we're hearing and we're having to give further explanation on.